Hello again and welcome back to BTN TV at the Business Travel Show Europe. My name is Lauren Arena. I'm a senior contributor at BTN Europe and I'm very pleased to be joined by Scott Davies, the CEO of ITM, or the Institute of Travel Management here in the UK. Scott, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we've had a very busy kind of morning and afternoon, first day on the show. What's been your take thus far?
It's just brilliant. We are still not over the novelty of being together all the time.
Right?
And we really are together all the time now. It's brilliant. Everyone that you want to see is here. You catch up as, of course, business acquaintances, but friends first and foremost. And some people you're seeing for the first time since before the pandemic. And it's really, really a treat.
Wonderful. Now, of course, ITM is the leading body for business travel, both here in the UK and in Ireland. And you conducted a very interesting survey of some of your buyer members earlier this year. What did that kind of bring forth? What are buyers expecting to see in the second half of 2023?
Yeah, it was interesting. We asked them lots of questions leading into our spring conference in Brighton. And one of the main things that we asked them about was how they feel about all of the crazy things which are arriving on their table right now. And there's so many of them. And actually, it's really interesting because although they recognised that it was an extraordinary amount of stuff, it's what they've come to expect from this industry. Travel managers are extraordinary people, Lauren, and they're so adaptable. They're so open to change, and they're so that they're the chameleons of business travel because they have to be expert in
Right.
everything.
Yes.
During the pandemic, they were amateur epidemiologists, and since the pandemic, they've got the industry back on its feet through their companies. And some of the big challenges they're facing right now are, of course, how to make their travel programs marry up with their corporate sustainability and ESG goals.
Yes.
And around about the time
Huge.
of conference, they were expressing a lot of concern and interest about changes in distribution, particularly on the airline side. So those were the things that mainly came across.
And do they feel confident in the readiness of their travel, I guess, their TMCs and the other suppliers that they're working with, their partners?
Yeah, it's a kind of a qualified answer to that because actually what came across in most of the statistics is whether it's the TMC or the online booking tool being the very front end of the service, they thought the industry was about 50% ready for the changes that we're seeing.
Right.
So, and that's no negative comment about those players in the industry. I think there's a big recognition.
Of course not. And there is huge shifts taking place.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's only natural that it will take time for
Yeah.
everyone to, get their heads together and understand first what they're dealing with and then how they want to service their clients.
Correct, and especially when it comes to TMC, they are the great simplifiers of the complex. So our travel buyer and travel managers are really looking to strengthen their partnership with their TMC to work their way through some of these solutions. Because the changes that happen to distribution, progress will always happen. Buyers are very open to that and embracing of that, but clearly there's a great collaboration needed around the industry if it's to end to everyone's satisfaction.
Yes, to ensure that that infrastructure supports the change. Now, I know in order to I guess, to do your part and to help all the players move along this journey, you, ITM, established a distribution task force earlier this year. And just this week, today in fact, the task force has released a guide around airline retailing distribution. Can you tell us firstly about the task force and about this new report or this new document resource, we'll call it?
Of course, yeah, it's a guide to the changes that are happening and may happen in the future in particularly airline distribution. But airline is just the sector, that's in focus right now. It could be another sector next. We established the distribution task force because our buyer members really want to know what they need to know and understand what best practice is in terms of taking it forward. So our task force really had three major objectives: to understand what's happening and why, firstly. Secondly, to provide resources and guides for travel buyers to use internally with their stakeholders to explain what's happening and why.
Yep.
And then thirdly, maybe ambitiously, to offer suppliers a guide as to our recommended approach to changing your distribution strategy if you want to be competitive in the corporate marketplace. So those were the three things which we tried to focus on. And as you say, the guide which we published this week really is split into those three sections. It's something which is available to the industry. It's not a piece of work which we're keeping to ourselves. And it's just really helping the conversation move on because, as I said, progress is really, is a necessary part of changing the industry. And we want to understand and optimize it for buyers.
Would you be able to share perhaps one or two of the key recommendations made in the guide to the travel managers who are looking to make that shift in their strategy?
Sure. So the recommendations were in terms of resources for the travel managers and recommendations for the methodology for suppliers. So for travel managers, there's lots of things in there which might help you frame the conversation internally. And we're even including some guides which can be circulated internally. But the recommendations on the supplier side were really about meaningful collaboration with the industry. Meaningful collaboration means a two-way conversation before an outcome is determined. And really what's key within a corporate travel infrastructure, a program, is that it has to be reportable on, and very importantly, whichever the method of booking is, changes need to be able to be made to that booking. So those are the key things which we ask for suppliers to take into account when they're looking to roll out a significant change to their distribution strategy.
Yes.
And the thing is long. We tried to make it a short read because if these things are too long, no one's going to read them. I wouldn't read them. This is approximately 8-9 pages. It's a short read.
Very
it's
nice.
meant to be high level.
That's digestible.
It's a conversation starter as opposed to a conversation finisher.
Just to get those ideas sparking.
Absolutely.
Yep. Love it. Okay. Now, the need to report is really key, and that leads me nicely into the next topic around sustainability, which of course is something we've been talking about in the industry for a very, very long time. I think it's come into sharp focus now post-pandemic, and also because we have a lot of legislation coming down the pipeline in the EU, perhaps not so much here in the UK, but I know that there are changes happening here as well. And off the back of that, ITM has, of course, established a sustainability alliance. Tell us more about that.
Yes, so of course, such a huge area. All of our travel buyers work for organisations who have ESG commitments, and so their travel programme has to be in line with those commitments, working hand in hand with the stakeholders in their company. And more, any initiatives which are taken on within the travel programme have to stand the test of audit. You have to be able to report it and count it towards your corporate commitments.
That's right.
So we created the Sustainability Task Force really some time ago now to ensure that on behalf of our buyers, we embrace and share best practice in this area. As you said, although the legislation is at EU level at this point, there's no reason to believe that the same methodology should apply in the UK. And also, Lauren, think about ITM buyer members is that approximately 2/3 of them have international or global remits as travel managers. So actually their remit has to look way beyond the UK anyway. So increasingly reporting is critical. Part of the recommendations of our distribution workforce is that in our dealings between buyers and suppliers need to only come to buyers with initiatives which stand that test of audit. So some of the more salesy messages of sustainable travel are great to hear, but don't stand the test of audit.
And we do want to move away from greenwashing.
Absolutely, because travel is essential and it creates great value. So in order for it to keep meeting that internal return on investment while staying in line with corporate ESG goals, it needs to be done radically differently. And it's like anything in life, isn't it? If we don't behave correctly, things will get regulated for us, and it's better to be really running the agenda rather than having it imposed upon you.
Yes. I've spoken to a lot of travel managers around sustainability and the various challenges involved. There are many, but a recurring theme is around program leakage and encouraging travellers to make the sustainable choice. I was wondering, Scott, whether you had heard similar feedback from some of your buyer members.
Yeah, a couple of decades back, program leakage was all about losing opportunity for cost reductions and contributing towards your supplier deals.
And that's still the case.
Still the case.
But now there's the additional concern around carbon caps or budgets, if we can call them that, and trying to understand emissions. You can't do that if a booking is made outside the program.
Correct. And of course, once upon a time, I'm old enough to talk about this in terms of our industry, leakage would be, I found a better deal outside. Now it can be, I found a more sustainable option outside the travel program. And this is where travel buyers have to be ahead of the game, working with suppliers who can lead them to the best solutions. And I know one of the things that we can talk about is the importance of the point of booking, which frequently is the online booking tool.
That's right.
In presenting the most cost-effective and most sustainable option.
Yes.
Very difficult connection of things to pull off in one place.
Yes, but all coming together is what we need. And as you mentioned earlier, collaboration. That's always the answer. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's been great fun.
Thank you.